Namaste. Let us start with a prayer. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanao Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvina Vadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So let us chant 4 verses, number 1, number 5, number 20, and the one that we are currently doing, which is number 22. Rupam drishyam lochanam drik tadrishyam driktumanasam drishyahadhi vrittaya sakshi Drigeva natu drishyate. Number 5. Nodeti nastametyesha navriddhim yati nakshayam swayam vibhatyatha anyani bhasayet sadhanam vina. Number 20. Asti bhati priyam rupam Nama chetyam shapanchakam Adyatrayam brahma rupam Jagat rupam tvatodayam. Number 22. Upeksha nama rupe dve Satchidananda tatparaha Samadhim sarvada kuryat Hridaye vathava bahihi. Okay. So the verse number 20, Asti bhati priyam rupam nama cha iti amsha panchakam adyatrayam brahma rupam jagat rupam tatodvayam is a very key verse in this text. As we have gone over that, it's a very foundational verse. I say foundational because the facts contained in this verse are really the foundation for us to build a more joyful life of ourselves. And the explanation of the verse, and then the method of appreciating the truth of this verse, which is the truth of Vedanta, which is the truth of life. Vedanta is nothing but a very accurate and a very complete stock taking of our life. A complete stock taking is important because there are certain key aspects to our life which we are not considering as stock. It's there, but we don't know how to count it. And because of that, our life seems incomplete. And so what Vedanta does is to say, have you forgotten to count this important thing? And please do so. So it's not as though it's introducing something new to you. You already have it, praptasya prapti, but it's just that you're not giving it the importance because you are oblivious to it. You're not aware of it. You're ignoring it. So this complete stock taking has a foundation, which is this verse number 20, Asti bhati priyam rupam. And so then the question is, okay, I get it, but then how do I utilize it? It is something like very much like saying that Uh, I think I've given this example before, just as an example, that if a person was very poor and was living a hand-to-mouth existence, not knowing when the next meal will come, very worried about the future, and all those kinds of things. And a few years before that, there was a distant relative who was very fond of you when you were a youngster. It's just a contrived story. And had died and left you with $10 million in your bank account, in her will, let's say. Because she was very wealthy and she gave away a lot of wealth to the people. And then one of them, she said, was $10 million to this person who was my niece. Now, you had changed your residence, your names, you got married and so on, and you didn't know. And so the lawyers had difficulty in reaching you for 2 or 3 years. The money was yours, but it was never given to you because they couldn't find you. Finally, you got a knock on the door one day and said, "We have some good news for you." And these days, whenever you get an email from saying, "Congratulations, you have won this," you immediately delete them because you put it on spam. And so similarly, when this person knocks on the door, you find they go away. This is a sales call. So the person said, "Madam, I am not joking. There is some important things. If you want to, I'll have to send you some information later, but if you want to refuse my entry, but I've got some very good news for you." Reluctantly you say, "Okay, fine, come on over." And then the person says, "We've been looking for you for 3 years. You've got $10 million that your aunt had sent because she died. Were you aware that she had died?" She said, "Yeah, kind of. I remember this distant aunt, and yeah, I remember that." Well, you've got $10 million in your account. And all you have to do is to tell me your bank account number, and it is transferable to right of you. So you go through some procedures and so on, you find out it is for real, and then one day you get a statement from Wells Fargo. You now have, instead of having $2,600 in your account, you have $10 million in addition to it. Now, what Vedanta says is, this is exactly like this, that a stock-taking example, like the verse number 20 says, "Did you know what you have? You've already had it, but you didn't know it." So you first say, "Just go away." A lot of books have been, a lot of people have told me, "I'll do this for you, I'll do this for you," and so on and so forth. Just go away. And so finally the Vedanta says, "Okay, but please, you're making a mistake. You should really look at yourself." Finally you look into it and says, interesting. There's an interesting possibility. So what do you have to say? It says you've got a stock of happiness that you're not tapping. How? Well, this is how it is, and so on and so forth. Now, going back to the example, if a person is convinced that now I have $10 million in the bank, the question is my behavior likely to change overnight? Answer is no. Because $10 million in the bank are just some potential that I don't know what to do yet. I am still continuing with my beggarly habits. I don't get good food because I have enough money, and my room is very cramped, but I don't know how to use I don't trust the fact that I have $10 million. So I need to get used to it. And so here now, verse number 20 just tells you what you have. The number 21, 22, and so on and so forth are changing your behavior so you utilize your wealth. You already have the wealth. We're not saying that, okay, if you do this, then you'd get the first $500,000 if you do this, and then no, it's all yours. But you have to recognize it. You have to tap into it. So this is the verse number 21 and 22. And how? We will see. We saw that even last week, but we will see much more this week. So number 22 says, given the fact that you as a person has an unlimited personality which is not constrained by anything. It's not constrained by things that you have, by potential of what might happen to you. Why? Because it is the very nature of unlimitedness. It is asti. Asti means that your nature is truth, satyam. And all things that appear to be true to you draw their truth from you. So this is the nama rupa. The nama rupa is the name and form are like the ornaments of a gold. You are the gold. So yes, the ornaments have a name and a function, but they do not exist separately from you. In fact, it is nothing but you in a different form. This is what you have to appreciate. So what you have to appreciate is that asti bhati priyam is very fundamental to you. And nama rupa comes and goes. This is what you have to appreciate. It's like saying, your $10 million is unlikely to be disturbed in your lifetime. It might become $9,920,000 after a while. Maybe at the several years later, it may become 9 million. Even that is not true for you, because asti bhati priyam never changes. It is yours forever. It is you. What changes is how you take yourself to be, which is your experiences, your transactions, how you look at yourself, and so on. This is what we're going to do today. So it says, given this fact, please see this Viveka, this Drg Drsya Viveka. That is in fact a difference between, because it's all one. So if you separate them, you find that there is an unchanging element to myself, which is asti bhati priyam, and a changing element to myself, which is nama rupa. And the changing element really doesn't affect the unchanging effect. The unchanging element doesn't affect it. You have to see this. First, it doesn't appear very true, but this is the truth. You have to see this. All right, I kind of see it. Now what? What do I have to do? So this is where verse number 22, which is the beginning of Samadhi section, begins. And as mentioned to you, that the Drg Drsya Viveka is a text which is quite famous for describing the type of meditations, the types of samadhi, which will enable you to appreciate the truth, because you are still in denial. So the Shastra says, we know it. We know how people behave. Suddenly, if they are given this huge wealth, you will continue to be in denial. And your conduct, your way of leading the life will more reflect what you have been used to for thousands of years, in this case, several lives. That I am a limited person is a long-standing understanding. And all of a sudden you are given the fact that you are unlimited. You're not going to change your behavior overnight. But you should, you can. And the way to do that is now being given. And so meditation is part of that. So in the Vedantic way of looking at it, just the other day I was talking to someone, interestingly enough, there's a person that we were visiting. He's a brother of a friend of ours, and I kind of knew that he was very much involved in meditations. He lives in Fremont. He lives in the West, in Cupertino, but he goes to Fremont to some guru to do meditations. So I was just asking him a little bit more about it, and he was also quizzing me. He knew that I'm involved in teaching Vedanta and so on. And it appears in his case there was such a dramatic difference between what he was doing and what I am involved in. He was saying that the central part of our conduct is meditation. So the whole thing is, how long can you meditate? And all the other aspects are a way to increase the length of the meditation and to make it more natural so that you are able to meditate all the time. So remember this. So what I'm saying is, not remember, but please understand this. What he's saying is, meditation is the main thing, and all other things like psychological problems and understanding and so on are secondary. Opposite to what we say. What we say is that a careful evaluation of what the entire stock of my life is the central part. This is what is called Shravanam. To understand through the Upanishads and all these other Bhagavad Gita and these kinds of Drg Drsya Viveka texts and so on, is to take an accurate stock of what my life consists of, and to reveal that it consists of an unchanging wealth that I was not aware of. And of course, I am still not really appreciative of it because my conduct in life is still not consistent with this newfound wealth that I've been told about. And so from that standpoint, our fundamental aspect is Shravanam. And if there are some doubts about it, like in the case of this example, the doubts are that, really, the $10 million are mine? Then you go and meet with the branch manager in Wells Fargo and says, really, is this not a joke, is it? Is it mine? They say, yeah, that's yours. So you have to do some investigations to remove any doubts about the fact that they belong to you. This is called Mananam. So similarly, here also through the Mananam, you have to see, Mananam means to think about it, to reconcile it. It's called Mananam. So Mananam means that really, Asti Bhati Priyam is my nature? It's hard for me to believe. And so you read different texts and so on. And this is what is called Samanvaya. In one of the texts that I'm proposing to teach, very advanced text, Brahma Sutra, there is a section there which deals with Samanvaya. So Samanvaya means that consistency, the search for consistency, because it is a single statement and it's not as though I disbelieve the people. They look like they are believable people that I'm studying under. But still, despite all that, I am not so sure. So I'm going to go to different gurus and talk, not completely different section, not going to Buddhism and Jainism and so on. But within the Hindu fold, you have to really look around to say, is this true? And so in our case, we study a lot of Mahatmas. They all give different examples. All the Upanishads give different examples and so on. But in there is Samanvaya, consistency. Yep. You have this wealth. Everybody says Asti. They might call it differently. Instead of calling Asti Bhati Priyam, they might say Satchidanandaha, Satyam Jnanam Anantam, Satyam Shivam Sundaram. Different kind of words are used, but they mean exactly the same thing. This is called Samanvaya. So to improve Samanvaya, there is a second stage of your enquiry, which is called Mananam. Then you remove all the various doubts, and you are still not as happy as you should be. Why? There it means that you need to meditate on the basic truth at the expense of excluding different thoughts that come to your mind. So this is what is called Nididhyasanam. So what is called Samadhi elsewhere is also called Nididhyasanam. So just to close off this before we go to verse number 22, in Vedanta, as opposed to this gentleman friend of ours who thinks that meditation is the main stem, what is called Anga. Anga means the main stem. Main stem means the main stem of the body. And attached to the main stems are the various limbs, hands, legs, etc. And so Anga is the main stem and hands are the Angi. I'm sorry, just the opposite, I'm sorry. Anga means limbs and Angi means the main stem. Apologize for that. Angi means the main stem. So in their case, the meditation is the Angi and psychological problem removal is the Angas or the limbs. The main stem is meditation. In Vedanta, it is just the opposite. In Vedanta, listening and understanding is the main stem. And to do meditations on it are the angas. So the nididhyasanam in Vedanta is anga, limbs, not the main stem. It is kind of like the icing on the cake. Anyways, be that as it may, this book does a very good job of articulating the various types of samadhi that we are going to look into from next week on. But for now, let us see the first line of the verse number 22 on the method of understanding, the focus on the wealth that I have and not focus on the problems that I have. Okay? So, number 22 says, Upeksha nama rupe dve Satchidananda tatparaha. Upeksha means disregarding. Having disregarded is called upeksha. Upeksha, disregarding. The disregard is called upeksha. Means not being too concerned about it, just ignoring it. Not be too beset by it is called upeksha. Upeksha means having done so. Upeksha for what? Nama rupe dve. Ignoring your concern about nama and rupa, names and forms. Try to dwell on the fundamental aspect of your wealth, which is Satchidananda Rupa. There's a story that goes where it says that supposing you have a person, contrasting two people, one person is struggling in life, doesn't know what their worth is not being well received in the office. People don't appreciate him and has a hard time getting accepted in, is struggling with it. To that person, if some problems come up, like if his spouse did not make the right food or something, he's likely to be much more, he or she is likely to be much more upset by the actions of the other person. As opposed to that, supposing there is a scientist who has become a very important source of some new discovery, let's say this coronavirus, and supposing this scientist is on the verge of discovering that I have something that will take care of coronavirus. Imagine how the person of the importance, you're working in some laboratory on a vaccine and you are on the verge of really proving that that kind of an important person. If that person comes home and the spouse has not made the right food, you think that person will be upset? No. Because his mind is full of the joy of discovery, his own role in it. And if the meal is not ready, he is hungry and so on, he'll say, so be it, it's okay, I'll have some snacks. But if a person, on the other hand, is already being questioned in terms of his worth to the society, his competitiveness, his competence, then the same problem that the meal is not being ready will blow out of proportion. Similarly here, it is said that, listen, do not worry about Namarupa. Appreciate the wealth that you have. If you do, the same problems that had beset you before will diminish in their importance. This is what is being said. So now, having said that, now let us look at specific applicability to yourself. So, upeksha nama rupe dve, being indifferent to name and form, has two ways of expressing itself. Okay, so let's see that first. There are two ways of disregarding the trivial. One way is within myself, and the other one is outside. See, both of them actually have a single basis, but they express differently. How? So this is what we will see now. One is within myself and the other one is outside. This is what will be pointed out in the second line of the verse number 22, which we will go in more detail from next time, but I just want to give you the introduction. So the first line is Upeksha nama rupe dve Satchidananda tatparaha. Tatparaha means being focused on it. Means being absorbed in it. I think the absorbed is the best word. Being absorbed in the Satchidananda, in being absorbed in the appreciation of your wealth, which is yours. It's exactly like supposing you now have $10 million and you are now worried about small things. What you need to do is to remind yourself, oh my goodness, I forgot that I have $10 million. You can go to the banker and say, can I withdraw $1,000? So the teller will say, yes, of course. Why not? Just sign here. $1,000 I can withdraw? I've never done that in my life. I'm living hand to foot. So try to get used to it. Swami Paramarthananda from Chennai, he is very fond of using this word, which I really like. And I'll communicate that to you now. He says, get used to claiming Satchidananda. Claim it. Invoke it. This is important. We don't know how to do it. No, because I'm not sure yet. Well, be sure about it. What's keeping you from being sure? Look into it. Write to the banker. Talk to others. Talk to your lawyers. Whatever doubts you have, clear them. And once you are clear of doubts, then claim it. Use it. Swami Paramarthananda actually does a very good job of saying, claim your infinite status. Infinite status, I am not sure about that. Okay, alright then, what do you want to do? I don't know what to do. Well, study, learn, inquire. And once you do, then don't say, okay, well, right now I'm very busy with a limited life. That's exactly what we are saying. That once you understand it, then don't be busy with limited life. Claim your infiniteness. So this claiming can be done in two ways. So the second line, he says, is samadhim sarvada kuryat. Sarvada means again and again. This is not just once in a while. Get into the habit of it. Sarvada kuryat. Then hridaye va athava bahihi. Hridaye means inside your own system. You have a system, body-mind system. This is yours. This is me, my thoughts, my history, my future, my body, my problems, my triumphs, me. And then you have all the other ones. I am living in this environment. And I have some relationships, and I have certain conditions in the country that I'm living, some political system, all outside. This is called bahihi. Hridaye means inside. So he says, as we will be doing, make this samadhi a subject of introspection in both directions, inside you and outside you. So that's the meaning of this upeksha nama rupe dve satchidananda tatparaha. May you disregard nama rupa, may you be absorbed in appreciation satchidanandaha, which is your real nature. And by how? By doing samadhi, being into the habit of doing samadhi. Kuryat hridaye va athava bahihi. Okay? Alright, so with that, let's go into first doing it inside. And here Swami Viditatmananda ji on page 160 of his book, which I hope you are continuing to consult as part of this course. On page 160 he says, there's a very prominent headline, indifference to name and form starts with myself. Means that internal. And what does it mean? Right now, we are focused too much on my personality. If you just examine your conduct of the day, you will find your thoughts, the food you intake, the preservation of your health, the commitment to the family, your understanding of the friends, how they affect you, responsibility towards your children, responsibility, all those kinds of things. Anyway, that's going on outside, but just inside, you are very concerned about yourself. You follow what you want to do and you avoid what is unpleasant. And you are concerned about maximizing your pleasure your peace of mind, and you do not like to not be pleasant at any one time. You do not like being unpleasant. So you work hard at reducing the unpleasant moments. However you do it, it's up to you. But this is all what we all do. We are very concerned with maximizing our happiness in different ways. And so this is what my life is. So this is the regard to Nama Rupa. So Nama Rupa is not just one thing. It just means that you are very concerned with how you are feeling. And you don't like to not feel good. So you are taking remedial effects to make sure that you are happy. And you can maintain it as long as you can, but you cannot do it very long. So you just go from one experience to the other. Avoid the bad ones, go after the good ones. This is all you. So this all can be encapsulated as you are very concerned with your own Nama Rupa. Your hang-ups, your likes and dislikes, and you're probably thinking, what else do you want me to do? This is what I am. Well, let us try a different approach. Why? Because these temporary emphasizing the names and forms, consider it as crutches. Let's look at it that way. Consider it as crutches. Why consider it as crutches? Because you can say that I need help. I'm unable to be happy by myself. So what is wrong? I don't like to be hungry, so I eat. I don't like to be alone, so I find company. So you are looking for ways to please yourself internally. Leave aside outside at the moment. We'll come to that separately. This is just being focused on your personality needs of your life. Isn't it? Here Swami Paramarthananda had given this reference on Bhagavad Gita chapter 3, number 9. So he says, Yagyarthat karmanaho anyat lokoho ayam karma bandhanaha. Yagyarthat karmanaha anyatra lokaha ayam karma bandhanat. You can look that up if you want to. What he's saying is, as we are doing in the Purusha Suktam class, that there is a certain harmony in life that you have to discover. This is called yajna. Yajna is a harmony in life. And if you are concerned with your actions outside this yajna, any karma that you do which is not consistent with the harmonious life with others becomes a kind of like a limitation to you. Karma bandhana. Anyway, that's just one way of looking at it. Another way to look at that is that I really like this analogy very much. So it's like, you are boxing yourself in by not understanding that you don't need to box yourself in. And so by boxing yourself in means you have the potential of not being limited by within living a box. Swami Dayanand used to say that. He says, it's interesting that by the ability not to be concerned about my likes and dislikes, I fail to see the freedom that it comes from it. I am so hung up in leading my life based on my likes and dislikes that I box myself in. It's kind of like, this is an extreme example, but I'm living in a coffin where I'm nailing myself in from all sides. It's kind of like a small box space. And if I get into the habit of not being boxed in, I can see that I'm the total space. Just an attitude, nothing more that you have to do. So therefore, it says that the first effort that we should do is to start by being so concerned about my internal needs. And I cannot do that until I simultaneously get absorbed in the wealth that I have. There's an interesting example about this. So supposing those of you that have had children, you will see this right away. So when a child becomes like 2 years old, like we had 2 boys, and so we were used to giving them small boyish toys like little trucks and Tonka trucks and so on and so forth. And they would get very, very attached to it. Very attached to it. And this is a common thing. Let's say you are visiting a friend and they have a son also who is a few years older than your son. So your son may have just a small truck that he's very fond of. But you are visiting the other person. That person who's 2 or 3 years older, he's got bigger toys. He's got this earth-moving truck that can move, and it's about so big. All of a sudden, your son says, "Oh my God, I want that." So while they were playing, the other person just lets him play with it for a while, and your son takes it and doesn't want to give it back. Now comes a huge problem. That guy is snatching. Your son is crying. The mothers get involved. They don't know what to do. Fathers get involved. There is a big push and back going forth. Very natural. So they say, you know what the mother should do, what a father should do? There is a favorite chocolate candy that your son likes, 2-year-old son likes. This is the time, keep it in your purse. Take the time to take it out and say, listen, if you give this Tonka toy back to that is a friend of yours, I will give you this big chocolate. So this person finally loosens the hold on it, and the other person just takes it away. And he wants the chocolate right away because it is a reward. So similarly here also, we cannot get rid of our likes and dislikes, because they are like playing with toys, because I'm so used to it. I'm a child when it comes to it. I'm so fond of making sure that I get the right things and nobody disturbs me and so on and so forth. And Shastra says, give it up. And I can't give it up. So the Shastra says, listen, there is some much bigger prize than you. Why don't you focus on that? And like a mother who keeps this chocolate in her purse all the time, just in a situation like this, the Shastra also says, okay, guess what? I know you'll be upset, but give it up and focus on something more important. And at first I say, I don't know if that important thing is that going to work for me? These are normal problems. This looks like just some words on a page. Asti bhati priyam rupam nama number 20 and Satchidananda Tatparaha and so on. But what about me? So the Shastra says, it's you, my friend. It is you. Just look at it. Give it a chance. So, this is the so here the direction has to be given to you. You may have to travel on it before you're convinced about it, but this is the direction, and the direction is, you don't have to give as much importance to your nama rupa. You don't have to give that much importance. Begin to become indifferent and begin to absorb in what is essentially you. And I know that in the beginning your mind is have some questions. Is it really true? Is that going to work? Is that just a ruse? Give it a try. Shastra says, if you do that, the hold of the trivial things in your life will loosen. And observe that fact. The grip that it has on you at the moment is very palpable, it is very real, it's discomforting. But just observe by various means, as we have been discussing, and will continue to do so. Let it be. Don't be too concerned. If things don't happen the way they do, tell yourself, let it be. Let it be. I know in the beginning it requires certain hand-holding of your mind, your personality, of being very understanding. Be kind to yourself. Don't force it, but follow the direction. And if you do, then, as Swami Viditatmananda says, your life will become closer to being a yoga. It is not just doing yoga asanas for 1 hour here, which you feel good about, and so on, but the entire space in your life will become more like a yoga, more like a yajna. And just the joy of discovering this method itself is very heartening. You don't even have to go up to the point. You may still be somewhat disturbed about things, But the fact that you are improving and that you are actually moving in that direction is very encouraging. As I've mentioned before, that really speaking, this is like a journey in life. And the journey can be very difficult if you don't know where you are going. I think Swami Maheshananji had given this example, very beautiful example. I really like this. He says, supposing you are going from in a car, long distance, and for me, believe it or not, 2 hours is a long distance. I remember when I was younger, from the Bay Area, we would go to Tahoe for a weekend, and Tahoe was 4 hours away. And we were all, the kids and my wife and I, and we would just pile into the car. And we actually had bought a condominium in the snow country. We all used to ski there. And we'll go there on Friday for 4 hours and come back on Sunday night. And pretty soon we discovered this is so stupid to sit in this car for so long and just to have skiing for 10 hours over the weekend. It's not worth it. And so now Swami Maheshananji had this example. He says, suppose you are going on a long distance. And to me, the long distance these days, I haven't even been to Sacramento, which is 2 hours away. My son used to go to UC Davis, close to Sacramento, so we would go, and that's it. 2 hours is more than enough for me. Otherwise, I feel, I don't know, I'm bored. I used to. I don't do that anymore. Swamiji says, listen, if you have kids in the car that are really disturbed by not being able to do anything, and you don't know how long will it take, they are much more disturbed than you are because you know it's only half hour left. So you say, it's okay, it's only half hour left. And the kids don't know what half hour means. So they are not sure how long this will going to take. So the meaning is that even though this journey might take a while, but with the understanding that you are progressing. Like for example, when you would go and see this is a gas station, and now if you go to that gas station, it's only half hour away. So similarly here also you find that if you begin to do disregarding of your own likes and dislikes, your own peculiar personality, disregarding it, and just overlook it, you will feel a lot happier. And you may not be perfectly happy yet, you haven't reached it, but you're saying it's not that far. I'm going in the right direction. So this is this is what the text is talking about. So I think with that I will go straight into the discussion about samadhi from next week on. And as we do, we will start to increase the content of actually doing nididhyasanam, samadhi. So we will practice it as we do. But both the theory and practice of samadhi will be the central theme of Drg Drsya Viveka from now on. So this is how we will proceed. And There are a couple of more things that I need to discuss other than just the discussion of samadhi. Discussion about jnanam and bhakti. Jnanam, karma and bhakti. Are they different? Do they lead to different goals? And to a certain extent, the discussion about the Patanjali Yoga, the samadhi resulting from Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, and also the samadhi resulting from Vedanta Sutras. And so those, I think, will all become intertwined in this discussion about samadhi. And so with that, I think we'll take a new road to the discussion about Drg Drsya Viveka, and we will continue to do that next week. So with that, let me close the class. Om Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityor Ma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Okay, see if you have any questions. Good. Happy to have you all attending. So wonderful. Some of you are taking both the classes, the one in this morning, and I don't know how you do that. It must be hard, but my appreciation for it. A lot of people and the new people. And Shri has this comment saying, could it be our habits of clinging to likes and dislikes arose developmentally long ago out of competition for basic physical survival? Not only that, this is our basic, there's nothing, we don't have to explain this. Why did it happen, and is it this, that, or the other? We have a continuous pattern for a long time, over several lives, where we are just a limited human being. And all these other things about physical survival and are all part of that. So there's no particular reason for this. This is all part of the very existence of a limitedness of a human being. And we've always been like that. But there is an end to it. This is the issue that Vedanta points out. That that's not your real nature. Your real nature is not limitedness. Your real nature is unlimitedness. And you've superimposed limitedness on top of that. And that superimposition expresses itself in various ways. Survival, physical survival, lack of friendship, all kinds of things. So there's nothing, you cannot point out one or two things that have contributed to this behavior. This is the way we have been. but we don't have to. That's the important thing. So yeah. Since I have you there, and if you could please ask any other questions and so on. I think what I'm thinking is that based on a couple of suggestions that you have made, and I'm warming up to it, once in a while, let's say for now once a quarter, we will resort to a Zoom session for doing satsangs. So I have to work out some of the, I've been talking to both a couple of people who are well versed in this, and so we are looking into either, we have to look at some aspects of whether it should be done separately for each class. What if we just have a few people, not everyone? Right, let me tell you about my current thinking for now, and we could change it, and if you have some ideas, please let me know. I'll be very, this is a common thing that we need to do. What I'm thinking of is that at the start we will have maybe once a quarter, maybe less, maybe every 4 months, 5 months, I don't know. Let's say once a quarter, we'll have an open Zoom session for each of the 3 classes that I currently teach. 2 classes on Saturday and 1 on Tuesday. And in the first session, we will simply spend some time briefly introducing ourselves so that I know what you look like if I don't know you, and others do too. And you can spend maybe a minute or two describing your life and what you're studying and so on and so forth. Just an introduction, right? And so if, let's say, there are 45 people and we take a minute and a half, 2 minutes, so let's say a 90-minute session at the most. So this is the first time. Then when we have it the next quarter, instead of introducing ourselves, we can have a more meaningful question-answer dialogue. You can ask a question, and if I know the answer to that, I will try to answer it. Others can tune in, or we can have a further discussion. So the subsequent Zoom sessions will become more question or answer satsang oriented. But in the beginning, we just need to introduce ourselves. This is the way I'm thinking. If there is a better way to do that, if you have some concerns about this and so on, please do let me know. But perhaps in a couple of months we will, or maybe even less than that, we will institute this method. So we will see. All right, don't see any others, other questions. So if nothing else coming in, then we will terminate the class, close the class, and we will see you next week. Okay. Om.